Today on Listen Up, Policing Prostitution. A legal challenge focuses on risks associated with the sex trade. That's next. Welcome to Listen Up TV. I'm Lorna Dueck. This is the program where we explore news from a Christian perspective. And we're going to Vancouver today, in the heart of their shopping district here on Robson Street, to talk about a passionate issue that's being debated here. Should Canada make it easier to buy and sell sex? Here are some of the opinions we'll bring you today.
Prostitution is the only career that would end with this generation's if every single mother was given a choice. I don't know a single prostitute, not one, in 15 years of working, in my 8 years of being out, and I don't know how many mothers I know, none of us want our daughters to be prostitutes.
I am here with this woman in a setting of prostitution. And it has nothing to do with them. It is about me getting what I want right now, right here. And I don't really care about this person.
She was prostituted indoors in an escort agency, which is allegedly safer. And we were talking about this move towards legalization, and I asked her what she got. And she said, Michelle, that would be like placing me on a silver platter and handing me over to death.
Strike down prostitution laws in order to make it a legitimate business for everyone, and the state would then become the biggest pimp of all.
We'll hear more from those Vancouver opinions later in the show. Activists who say that since these are the streets where more than 26 prostitutes were murdered, Vancouver has a responsibility for changing the risks associated with prostitution. A fervent group of abolitionists have emerged to work on that. Former prostitutes, social workers, and academics who believe prostitution can be abolished. But 3 other prostitutes have launched a different approach to safety, a court challenge to make the buying and selling of sex a constitutional right.
There are only a couple of laws that we're paying attention to right now, and those are the laws in relation to safety, followed by health, of course. Health and safety go hand in hand. Well, I always have somebody with me, a security guard or a maid or another person, another dominatrix. But no, there are security measures in place for all that. You can put a camera outside your door. You can have an alarm company wire you just like the lady that falls down and can't get up. There's also voice-activated alarms as well. So if you're going to go into this business and work from your home, you'll want to take those measures.
The women leading the Charter Challenge say they work in the sex trade by choice. Their legal battle is rooted in a desire to protect themselves as they pursue work.
There are the vulnerable that are, of course, kidnapped and forced into this trade. But wouldn't you think that would be front page news every day if it was that prevalent? Huh? It's not. That's just fear. That's the boogeyman jumping out of the closet at you. There's nothing to fear but fear itself, and we pay attention to one case at a time. We can't corral everybody into the same pen. I won't be corralled into the same pen anyway. I'm going to work from my home when it's legal. I'm going to address my neighbors' concerns. I'll keep my lawn manicured and my windows clean, and I'll send them a Christmas card and bottles of wine like I did up in Thornhill. I'm a good neighbor. You stay a prostitute because you want to, not because you have to.
That opinion flies in the face of Statistics Canada findings. According to the numbers, most prostitutes begin their careers in their early to mid-teens and go on to lead lives of exploitation, violence, substance abuse, and disease. The challengers say that changing Canada's laws surrounding the sale of sex will help keep those prostitutes safer.
Well, over the last 2 decades, we've seen an increasing number of missing and murdered women, all coming from the street sex trade. And we started to look at how the law was operating and realized that the law prevented women from taking any legal options to protect their safety. And in light of the Robert Pickton trial, we thought the time was ripe as Canadians would understand that the law, as it's currently constructed, even though it may want to achieve good results, is actually hurting people very badly.
Well, I mean, these court cases want to do something that will effectively increase the demand for prostitution. And what's unsafe about prostitution is prostitution itself. It's what men are doing to those women behind closed doors. And so legalizing it so as to give men a constitutional right to keep doing that and to encourage more of them to do that isn't going to make women any safer. The safety argument's often premised on the idea that it will move women indoors. But if you decriminalize prostitution both on the street and indoors, which is what the court cases are seeking to do, you're not going to change anything about the pattern of the demand or about the places where the women go. They're going to stay exactly where they are.
Really what we're trying to do is say the women that can make independent decisions and aren't vulnerable should have a safe legal option.
The challengers want the laws surrounding prostitution struck down. Laws that ban communicating with potential clients, living off the avails of prostitution, and setting up brothels. But interveners insist that's not what Canadians want.
Are that if these provisions of the criminal code are struck down, we as a society have essentially said that prostitution is legitimate, that it's a proper commercial activity that can be practiced in our communities. And we don't believe that that's what Canadians believe prostitution to be about.
At this Vancouver forum, the anti-prostitution message was clear.
Prostitution is violence against women, driven by the unchecked male demand for sexual access to the bodies of women and children.
Well, I always have somebody with me, a security guard or a maid or another person, another dominatrix.
It is time to make visible the real criminal and decriminalize the sold.
Do they understand that prostitution has links to the drug trade, to organized crime, to the international trafficking of women? And I think if you asked a lot of Canadians about those effects, I think a lot of them would change their mind. I think when Canadians see it as simply an exchange of money between two adults, that's one thing. But when I think Canadians understand that the impacts on their communities are much broader, a lot of them, I believe, would have a different opinion of prostitution.
And we, as a collective society, through our refusal to clearly identify prostitution as violence against women, but rather put it in the category of work, and you'll hear more about this, are implicit in ensuring that the pimps and predators can operate with impunity.
For activists like Terry Jean Bedford, the opponents are unhelpful people who take away her choice for safety.
So what happens is you're forced back onto the stroll because you need to make a buck. Like myself, I kept losing legitimate jobs after I was raided because my face would be in the paper the next day and the business didn't want to draw attention to itself. I could never sit at the front desk in this reception area ever again in any corporate office. So I'm here, I've chosen this path and I have to stick to it. There's no turning back, right?
When we return, listening for the realities of buying and selling sex in Canada. Stories from those who've been there next.